Let's talk about what to do with Dupuytren's as a therapist. I recently had a patient who came in. He had a Dupuytren's release, so they did a fasciectomy, but they didn't leave it open. So there's different types of surgeries for Dupuytren's. Usually patients have the cord, it's somehow pulling them into MP flexion. Sometimes it's also pulling them into PIP flexion. So my patient came in, let me get a marker. Patient came in with Dupuytren's release. He actually had Dupuytren's release on the other hand 2 years ago, and now he's having Dupuytren's on his other hand. And what's really funny is you would think because he had Dupuytren's surgery before, he would be much more knowledgeable about what's going on. And it's not that he's not knowledgeable, he actually is quite knowledgeable, but not in the way that you might think as a therapist.
If you're a therapist who's struggling, I want you to listen closely. You're showing up every day, you're treating patients and putting in the hours, but there's a weight you carry that nobody sees. That feeling of not being sure and not quite knowing if you're making the right call, second guessing your decisions long after the patient has left. Here's what I need you to know. You're not alone. Most therapists feel this way, they just don't talk about it. They assume everyone else has it figured out while they're the only one struggling, but that's not true, and you don't have to carry it alone. That's why Juan created the mentorship program, to give you the direct guidance, the clinical certainty, and the community that helps you move from uncertainty to confidence. You became a therapist to make a real difference. It's hard to feel that way when you're not sure you're doing it right. For more information on joining, click the link in our description.
Right? So sometimes we make assumptions that people know about things when in actuality they might not know what you know, right? That's why they're coming to you. You're the expert therapist, you're the hand therapist, you're a certified hand therapist, and you're there to guide them. So he knows that he has Dupuytren's, he knows he had the surgery, and he knows, like, based on whatever the doctor told him that he's allowed to do and what he's not allowed to do. And a lot of times that information, there's like gaps and it's missing information. He received a splint that kept his hand straight, and then it wasn't including, it only includes certain fingers but not the others, and he had complained that it was not that comfortable. So he was wondering if he needed another one and how long he needed to wear it and stuff like that. So he had splint needs. The second thing is he had an incision right here in the middle of his palm, and they had an incision on the side of his finger. So he had wound care needs, right? So two problems. The third problem was just his range of motion. He's like, he can make a fist, but he really couldn't fully extend. It looked like he could extend, but he was really kind of still pulled down at the MP a little bit. And then he has like somewhat of a, not a contracture, I would say, because you can passively move it, but it was getting really stiff. So he was having range of motion problems. So when you're working with a patient, you can understand they have a certain diagnosis, right? So the critical thinking components are like that. This is how I think about it. Someone comes in to me, they have Dupuytren's. My mind goes into thinking, what is Dupuytren's? What do we as a therapist do about Dupuytren's? What are the surgeries for Dupuytren's, right? So if you're new to hand therapy, this process is going to be a little slow and you're going to have to learn about it, right? Dupuytren's is a genetic disease where the body creates like fascial cords that can wrap around the tendon, starts to pull down at the joints, it can wrap around the nerves, and therapy doesn't really help. It can affect tissue, like it can affect ligaments and it can affect muscles, right? But the cord itself, we can't really affect. So they either have to have an injection where the cord is broken, or they have a surgery and have that cord removed, right? The great thing about this type of disease process or surgery is that nothing is broken. Nothing is broken. Nothing had to be put in, to fix it. Something had to be removed. And in the removal of it, we're going to have symptoms, right? We're going to have symptoms that we're going to have to deal with, right? What's one other tidbit I wanted to share about Dupuytren's is that even when people have surgery, it can reoccur, right? A little tidbit, doesn't mean that it does. It doesn't mean that it's going to reoccur right away. It's just Dupuytren's is a long kind of process, and for some people it's more aggressive, it comes faster, and some people it progresses slow and it will come back slower, right? So older gentlemen, so I'm sure that it's not going to, is not going to necessarily come back and like haunt him, right? He's doing really well from his other hand from 2 years ago based on what I'm seeing. When they have history like that, that history helps us determine what's going on. So now I can come down to, now that I know about the disease process, I know about the nature of the injury, I know about the surgery. He had stitches. His stitches are dissolvable stitches. They're white and they're supposed to come off on their own. These doctors be telling their patients that these stitches come off on their own. They do not come off on their own when they are not being pulled, rubbed on, stressed to come off, right? So he has wound care. My hand hurts. I don't have enough motion. I'm worried about it being pulled back and down. And this is the surgery I had. So we have range of motion needs, we have wound care needs, and then we have splinting needs, right? And as a therapist, your job is to address all of that. You can address all of that on the first day. You can address some of it on the first day, and then you continue to do follow-up. So on that first day, I didn't need to worry about the splint because he already had one. He just didn't like it. So I said, well, you already have one. Let's work on these other things first, and we can revisit the splint thing. You have to know about splint use for Dupuytren's. What is it used for? How long is it used for? What's the purpose, right? And the reason why is because your patients are going to have questions about it, and you want to come across as like knowledgeable and knowing what to do. You, technically speaking, don't have to have that splint on for a long period of time. Doctors usually prescribe that splint, make that splint, usually for the first 2 weeks or so while you are with the incision, and they don't want your finger to pull down like that, right? So you can wear the splint 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Once you start feeling like you're able to extend and your finger isn't being pulled down, you don't have to wear that splint anymore, right? So we know when to apply it. As therapists, we have to also know when to get rid of it, right? And you have to know when to wear it. So this splint is a night splint. It is only worn at night because you need to use your hand during the day. Otherwise, you're going to get stiff in just extension because you need both flexion and extension. So I was able to explain that, and I was like, we will make you a new splint. We will adjust your old splint next time. No problem. Bring your old splint in and we'll create that. 2, wound care. Wound care is actually most important. Anytime someone has a wound, it is one of the most important things that we need to look at. You need to make sure there are no signs and symptoms of infection. What does that mean? There's no redness that has spread. There's no pain that has intensified. There's no edema that has intensified, right? So you have redness, you have pain, you have swelling after surgery. That's normal. Intensified is when you potentially have infection. There's no drainage, right? It's not just seeping out like liquid or liquid mixed with blood, right? And then, of course, the smell. There's no funky odor to it, right? So sometimes if people don't use their hand, wash their hands, you might get like the feet smelling hand, right? Like it smells like musty or old, but infection has a very particular stank to it, and you will know it when you smell it. There was no drainage, so there's no signs or symptoms of infection. So one of the things that we need to do in order to get the range of motion, in order to work the scar, in order to get the edema down, we've got to close and promote wound healing. Promoting wound healing is about removing the debris that is blocking the wounds from healing together. So we want to remove that. And then usually these incisions fall off between 10 to 14 days. By 2 weeks, an incision like that should heal. We're not talking about an open fasciectomy, meaning that they left it open. They took the cords out and they sewed his skin together. So we're just 10 to 14 days, you should be good to go, right? It had been 2 weeks already, and you could see that he had a lot of what we call eschar, kind of like scabbing, but like dead skin on top, and it was sort of like bubbling, over, like just creating this layer of dead skin. And then on this side, you could see that it was really, really red. There was no infection. It's just that the stitches needed to be removed. They were ready to go, but they were red. He would not let me remove them. He was like, you're not taking these out. And so I was like, you know what? That's fine. So you have to work with people where they're at. Like, he didn't trust me. He was not comfortable. It hurt, and he did not want to have, like, not 1 ounce of pain. And so you as a therapist need to know how to address that and work on helping them to understand what's going on so that they'll allow you to do it. First, in terms of wound care, we have to be able to clean that out. So we're supposed to be able to clean it with normal saline, and then just educate the patient in terms of what they need to do and why it's so important to be able to remove those stitches and to be able to remove that eschar. So I was able to convince him we're able to remove some of the eschar that was on top that was blocking, because what happens is, imagine you have this layer and he's like washing his hands, all the water gets stuck inside. Well, he was doing some food prep with incisions on his hand, and so we're getting food prep underneath there. So there's moisture that goes underneath, and if there's moisture debris, then you can't close a wound. So wound care education and helping people understand what that means, how it helps them to heal and how to help them progress, is key in terms of being able to close that wound so you can progress into range of motion. So we covered splinting, we covered wound care. Now let's get on to the range of motion. I don't care how what kind of exercises you do, but tendon glides are really important. Working on intrinsic stretching is really important. And the key thing here is managing that PIP stiffness, right? Because it's going to keep pulling down. And the reason why the PIP keeps pulling down is because of your flexors, like your extrinsic flexors, but also your intrinsic muscles. So instead of just sitting here and grabbing stuff and doing putty and thinking that that's enough, become very specific in the exercise prescription that you're providing someone so that they can know exactly what to do. One of the most important things I teach my patients, because remember, you have to teach them because they only have one hand. So you have to teach them how to make sure that his hand's flat, and then they could just work on, you give them the most simple thing to do so that they can do it over and over and over. So it's this one. So it's just making sure that that PIP goes flat. Now, if you're like this, it's going to take you a little bit of time. You might need a little prop so that you can get more leverage here. He actually needs it over here at the MP so that we can get some leverage and get PIP extension. So those are some of the most important things that you want to consider when you're working with anyone with Dupuytren's. You have to understand the disease process, understand the surgery or the nature of the injury and what you need to do from a therapy perspective, what therapy is capable of doing, what we're not capable of doing, what we need to do in terms of post-surgical, what's the expectation, but then deal with all the symptoms, splint needs, wound care, and of course range of motion, and all that allows them to be more functional and get the most recovery, because there's no reason after Dupuytren's why you can't get 100% recovery if you did not develop like a really hard contracture over decades. All right, so let me know if that helps. I talk about this and other injuries inside the mentorship program. I'm going to include all the links below. My name is Huang. I'm an occupational therapist and certified hand therapist, helping you to develop your clinical skills as a hand therapist. So all the links are below. Like, subscribe, do all the things, and I'll see you on the next video.